What is up, everyone? Welcome to, I don't know what we'll call this podcast. It's not Aravaipa Trail Talk, but we are having a really important conversation here. I am your host, your co-host, Matt Feldick with Aravaipa Running, joined by Muggy and Monster co-founder, race director, the great Noah Doherty. Noah, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and obviously, as everyone can see on their screen, we're joined by a number of guests here today. We're going to have a really fun conversation talking about, the history, a brief history of Muggy and Monster, how it started, where it's at, how that progression happened. But we're going to also talk a little bit bigger picture about just like outdoor recreation up in and around the Mogollon Rim, and specifically highlighting a project that Tonto National Forest and the National Forest Foundation have worked on the Highline Trail Restoration Initiative. So super excited to have a number of guests involved in the various aspects of all of this on. And so I'll let them kind of introduce themselves. I'll send it over first to Angie and Margaret. Angie with Tonto National Forest and Margaret with Rim Runners. So I'll let them kind of give a brief introduction and send it around real quick.
I'll let Margaret go first.
Oh, thank you, Angie. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Margaret Hess. I am the owner of Rim Runners in Payson, Arizona. I actually live in Payson and have done so for the last 5 years. And I have been working closely with Angie and the National Forest Service to really try and promote outdoor recreation on the Mogollon Rim and the Highline Trail. And of course, partnering with also Aravaipa. So we're really excited for this opportunity, and I'm going to hand it off to Angie.
All right, Angie Abel. I work for the National Forest Service out of the Tonto National Forest, Payson, Arizona. I manage the recreation program, which includes all things trails. About 4 years ago, we started this Highline Trail Restoration Initiative after a collaborative group in Payson identified the need for restoring the Highline Trail. It's part of our history here in Rim Country, and so many people saw the value and wanted to help with the effort. So I reached out to my counterparts at National Forest Foundation, and that's kind of what got everything going about 3 years ago. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shannon Smith with the National Forest Foundation.
Thanks, Angie. Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Smith. I'm with the National Forest Foundation, and I am the Tonto Stewardship Coordinator, also based in Payson, lucky me. And my role on this project is to help out with a lot of the background logistics for the project, contracting, paperwork, all that sort of thing. That's me. I'll pass it over to Caitlin.
Cool. Thanks, Shannon. Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Gurton, and I am the Southwest Regional Development Coordinator for the National Forest Foundation, or the NFF, as we sometimes call it. And I work in conservation partnerships, and what that entails is strategic fundraising measures and creative community engagement and partnerships such as Aravaipa Running, to assist in these important forest projects. And then I am based in Phoenix and am lucky enough that Payson isn't too far of a drive.
Yeah, especially this time of year, Caitlin. You're lucky to be able to get up to the Rim area. As hot as it is here in the valley, I'm blessed to be up on the Coconino Plateau in Flagstaff, so I get to escape the summer heat. And so again, a huge thanks for everyone for making the time to have this conversation. Again, like at Aravaipa, we're blessed to be able to put on like a lot of really awesome events and create a lot of really awesome experiences for runners and outdoor enthusiasts. And like the stewardship side of things, I think is also super important to touch on. And we're, excited to be able to help support this initiative. This is an initiative that like has a direct impact on Muggy and Monster. And so I think that's like maybe an interesting place to start, Noah, and you can pitch stuff whatever direction you want. But, you co-founded the race with your brother Jeremy back in the day is what I'll say, before joining the Aravaipa team. What made you want to put a race on up on the Mogollon Rim, and how did that come about? Why did you select the trails that you did? Like, why there? Why like the Pine, Payson, Mogollon Rim area? Like, you could have chosen anywhere to put on a cool race in Arizona, a lot of beautiful landscapes, and you chose this specific area. So why was that?
Yeah, I think what we found with the Mogollon Rim, so we grew up in Vermont, which is probably exactly opposite of Phoenix. So I think, when we moved here, we had been going to canyons and, slot canyons and doing cool stuff like in the desert, and then hiking mostly. Like we weren't trail runners at all when we moved here. And then around 2010, we started to get into trail running, and then I don't remember exactly how we kind of made our way up on the rim, but we went on this long run with like the Fred Hot Trail and the Cabin Loop and Houston Brothers, and it's all up on top of the rim, but everything kind of starts below the rim. And I think we were both just like blown away by the landscape, where it was like, wow, it's like summer in Phoenix, and then we're running in ferns up to our chest and like crossing streams and through these huge pine trees. And even at the bottom of the rim, starting, I think it was like usually at Washington Park is kind of our starting point, which is exactly where the Highline kind of runs right through it. But it's just so different and like changes so quickly. So that's kind of how we found it. It was like, we want people to see this. Like, we don't want people from the Northeast or the Midwest that are like, oh, I know what the desert is. It's swirl cactus and hot and rattlesnakes everywhere. Like, we saw this place where, like, this is where people need to see. Like, this is the Arizona that the reason why people keep moving here is because they see, like, the landscape is just incredible, right? And then as far as the trails, it became like, how can we piece this together? And finishing in the town of Pine was always part of the plan. This Jeremy's idea was like, I want to have that in a way like a European's, like, it's a very common thing, right? Like, you could finish in a trailhead and be done, but we like the idea of like, we'd love to have the communities be like, why are there people here? Let's cheer them on as they finish. So piecing the trail together from the Pine Trailhead through all these rim climbs requires the Highline, because it's really the vein below the rim. Like, it creates a line from east to west to connecting to the rim climb. So I think that's mostly how we came. It was like, we need people to see this. These trails are rugged. We knew about the Highline Trail from running Zane Grey, which is a 50-miler that's been around for, gosh, I don't know,
iconic,
30-something
right?
years
Like,
now. Yeah.
kind of one of the Southwest
First,
like original
yeah.
iconic races that
Yeah.
kind of set the foundation for the trail scene out here.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's still going today. So, I think that's kind of what happened. And that was the first year we ran it was 2012. So I guess, we've been going up there for quite a while. And then we've had many iterations of the course that have changed due to fires or flooding. And a lot of that does run right through the Highline. Most of the issues that we've had were on the Highline, with the exception of the Bear Canyon closure, which is up in Coconino. But so the Highline Restoration Initiative was like, okay, this could be really good, because the trail is pretty rugged out there, specifically east of Washington Park, going towards Myrtle and Hell's Gate and stuff. But we're having a fun time over there.
Yeah, and we'll see if Bryce is able to get Angie and Margaret's camera flipped there for us on the back end. But I think that one of the interesting things you said that I do want to throw over to Margaret is like the thought of like, this is the part of Arizona that like people should know. And like, I have, friends from all over the place who have visited, and it's like, they want to go camping up near the Mogollon Rim, or they want to go visit Payson and Pine. And so I guess I would send it to Margaret and just ask for like maybe any additional commentary, right? Like, you've lived in Payson for a number of years. You've owned a running shop or an outdoor shop in Payson. Like, I guess of all the places you could have, laid your roots in Arizona and kind of started a running store, why Payson for you? Are you guys maybe muted on your
Someone's
end
muted.
there?
Try flipping it upside down.
We'll circle back as soon as we get audio back on there, but maybe in the meantime, Noah, like, I know that you've said there have been many iterations of the race. Can you maybe just talk us through like how the race has evolved? Because I know even just a couple years ago was, the first year we ran kind of a true point-to-point 100.
Yeah.
So how has that evolution been, and how has navigating like putting together these like various like epic sections of trails? Like, this is Arizona's only Hard Rock 100 qualifier.
Yep.
And it's worthy of every it's certainly worthy of that. And so like, how has maybe the race evolved in that sense in terms of utilizing different trails and things like that over the years?
Yeah, so it started, it was actually 106 miles originally, just because it's just kind of where it landed with it. And it was, it was like multiple loops in a way. Like, I don't know how you would describe what it was, but it was kind of a couple 26, 25 mile loops. And, way back in the day, when Jeremy was trying to map it out, Jeff Jones, who was kind of a staple in the ultra community for years and years, he had a pretty great working knowledge of the rim. So he was like, here, you can connect by using this and this and this. And so we put it all together, and then we ran that course until 2015. So I think it was like 4 years. And then 2016 is when, I think that was the first year Aravaipa had it. I think it was 2016. Because my brother was like, we had like very young children and full-time jobs. We both worked in hospitality and hotels, and it was like, we cannot give this thing the attention it needs right now. And there's something here, like, we don't want it to lose. And Jamil actually reached out because he's like, well, you can't let it die. Like, the monster can't just not run. Jamil ran the first Mogollon 100. So he's a big reason why it's even still going, because he was like, I'll take it over. We'll figure out the logistics. You guys can help us, whatever. And then since then, 2016, I think it was 2016 was their first year. And then 2017 is when we started to have issues with the courses, major flooding, because the way it always seems to work is wildfire followed by immediate flooding. Like, it almost seems like Flagstaff just had the same thing. Like, it never fails. Like, we can't just have a fire and have the burn scars. It's like, and now we're going to dump massive amounts of rain on the area and just ruin everything. So that's kind of what happened for east of Washington, and we had to reroute for a couple years. And then during that reroute, Bear Canyon closed from a washout way up on the Pinchot area. And then, so we had to change that for a couple years. And then
you finally got,
and then COVID.
And then got to this point.
Yeah, 2021 was our first year we finally switched. We knew about the course for a couple years, the point to point, and James Bonet had been messing around with the eastern area, and he's like, hey, check out this route. You can get more rim climbs, because before, I think it was 4 rim climbs over 100 miles, and this is now 6. And you do 4 of them in the first 40 miles, which is awesome. So I think that was like a 90-something mile course, and then we figured out how to get to 100 again. And then, knock on wood, this will be the 3rd straight year of that same course with the 100-miler. So, and this goes farther east. This starts way east in the Apache Sitgreaves, so we added a 3rd national forest to the landscape.
And we'll see. Do we have audio on Margaret and Angie, Bryce?
I think they're muted on their end right now.
Looks like maybe they're muted on their end. So maybe just circling back, like, Shannon, you live in the area. What is like the outdoor recreation community like up there in Payson? And once we get the audio on Margaret and Angie's end, maybe we can have them chime in.
Yeah, I'll do my best to speak to it. I only moved here 6 months ago, though.
Perfect.
But there's a lot of opportunity, and I'm not an ultra runner, but I like to take my mountain bike out on occasion. I like to just do some nice slow hiking. and I do some rock climbing too, and there's ample opportunity out here for all three of those things. Like, you can't shake a stick without hitting a trail. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of the more interesting areas in Arizona because it is like very unknown, right? Like when people think of Arizona, they think of Phoenix, Tucson area, like low Sonoran Desert, or if they're a like running enthusiast, maybe they think of Flagstaff for like its like place in the endurance like the endurance space, but like the Mogollon Rim area, like that Pine, Payson, Strawberry area, is arguably the like greatest like kind of hidden gem in the state. Like people know Sedona as well, obviously, given its like tourism factor, but like I would say that area of the state, like I didn't know about it until I moved out to Phoenix in 2021, and it's like even just driving through that area is epic.
It's gorgeous. It really is, yeah. Yep. Are they there?
And so let's Margaret and Angie, do we have audio there?
I think they're
There may be.
frozen.
I think they're muted on their end. They just need to hit the red button.
Are you able to, do you see the microphone button on the bottom of your end that would maybe unmute there? They might be frozen.
Yeah.
Which is okay. We will, so I think that one of the like most important kind of pieces that you touched on, like there are obviously a number of trails that we use to make Mogollon happen, right? But like you said, the Highline Trail is like kind of that vein that allows for all of those rim climbs, right?
Yes,
and so
absolutely.
I will maybe send it to Caitlin and Shannon to maybe talk about kind of the Highline Restoration Initiative, because I think that, again, not only does it impact like the greater outdoor community there, which I think like one of the biggest things for me in this conversation is like more people should come and visit that area as like an outdoor recreation destination. And I think that like that was a big part of this initiative. So yeah, maybe if Caitlin or Shannon can maybe just touch on what the Highline Restoration Initiative, the Highline Trail Restoration Initiative is, and just give our viewing audience maybe a little bit of insight into that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
can give.
Go
Who
ahead,
wants to go
Shannon.
first?
Go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, I'll do some background on trail stuff if you want to do background on our fundraising. So the trail, as you guys mentioned, is going to be between 52 and 60 miles long by the time we're done restoring it. And basically it was brought to our attention that the trail needed restoring because, one, there was a lot of creek crossings where there was some erosion happening. The trail was starting to grow in, and something as iconic and just like you said, the main vein for a whole bunch of other things that it supports around the area, it deserved to be restored. So 2 years ago, we started working together with the Forest Service, and help me out here, Kaylin, because I wasn't there for all of the history. But once we jumped on the project with them, I think Angie's mic is back. We jumped on the project 2 years ago and started fundraising for all of the restoring we have to do. And it's going to be probably 3 years of restoration by the time we're done with it. We're done with just about phase one. And so I guess I'll pass it over to either Angie if her mic is working, or Caitlin to talk about how we accomplished phase one.
I think our mic is working.
Yeah, we can hear you and Margaret now, Angie. We appreciate you working through those problems with us, and we appreciate our audience for bearing with us. But yeah, I think circling back, maybe Angie, if you can touch on what Shannon was just talking about before we maybe get some of Margaret's general thoughts on just outdoor recreation in the area there.
Yeah, so I'm assuming we're talking about how the work was accomplished for phase one. Is that correct? Or the restoration work?
That's where I left off, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, phase one, Pine to Washington Park is almost complete. We had about 3 different trail contractors that we worked with doing machine work on sections where we chose to reroute portions of the trail to make it more sustainable. So that was to reduce the grade of the trail and to help get the water off of the trail. So that's mostly what we look at when we're trying to do sustainable reroutes, is to place the trail in a more acceptable grade. We like 5% if we can get it, but we will go up to 8 if we have to. And then doing a series of switchbacks and some of those things in order to shed the water off the trail.
I love it. Thanks, for educating us on like how everything works. Like I would never think like that there's a target grade or anything like that.
Is that based on erosion, that number, or is that so
Yeah,
it's not
that's
difficult?
It's based on erosion, and it is, as you guys know, Noah, the soils on the Highline change as dramatically as the vegetation and the scenes, the views. So those soils are highly erosive in some areas. So that 5% is to help with that effort.
Which like makes a lot of sense when again, I don't know if I said it. I think I said it off air. Like I come to this conversation with like the least knowledge of anything. I'm here more to like kind of guide the conversation around to our subject matter experts, if you would. And it's like I never would have thought of anything like that.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's why Angie gets paid the big bucks to help with those things. And Bryce, did you have a comment to pull up there? I think I saw it pop up real quick, but wasn't able to read.
My other question while you're looking at that is, you had mentioned the 3-year timeline. Is that 3 more years, or you're trying to get it done in a 3-year period?
Well, we'll be starting phase 2 next, and phase 2, as most of us know, is what I call the big divide in the middle, and that's that area of neglect. It had a lot of fire damage years ago, and then never got used much, never got repaired. Yeah. So that section, we will have almost 10 miles of rework on that section. So once a contractor's in, weather depending, of course, we anticipate that contractor will be in there for a couple of years when it's all said and done. So yes, you can expect 3 more years and maybe even up to 5 more years.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I was just checking because it's not easy area to get to either. It's not like you can just roll up and grab your tools out of the car and hit the ground running. It's like
no.
And so
little challenging to access, yeah.
And just from a user's perspective, as you probably know, I spend a lot of time on the trails up here. And just running the sections that have been completed by the restoration project, it's just amazing, the changes in the trail. You can see that those changes are going to be long-term, whereas where we'd get monsoon rains before, it had washed the trails out, and severe erosion every year would occur after the monsoon seasons. What I've noticed in those areas that have been restored so far is that there is a lot less damage after the monsoon seasons now, which is awesome. It allows a lot more people to be able to access the Highline, especially, and to be able to enjoy that trail system, because it's absolutely a beautiful, beautiful trail system. So it's great to see that the restoration project is working well. And even just yesterday, when I was out scouting from Washington Park to Geronimo Trailhead, in the recent burn area, even with the burn area and then some monsoon rains quickly following after the fire was out, a lot of the areas that would normally have been washed out are not washed out because of the work that's been done on the trail. So it was really great to see that yesterday. And then it allows us as runners to continue to use it, and then Aravaipa to not have to reroute the race, which is just awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome to like see and understand like the multiple facets of impact that the restoration initiative will have, right? Like you have the environmental and erosion facets, which then allow us, the trail to hold shape a little bit better so that it can continue to be used, but also like, making the trail more accessible and things like that so that more people can, come to the area, can enjoy the trail. And I will make one plug here that, for anyone in our viewing audience or who's watching this, after recorded, we do have the donation link pinned in the comments to this chat and in the description of this video. So if anyone wants to support this initiative specifically, which is one of the unique things, like shout out to Caitlin for helping make that happen. Like this money will go directly to the Highline Trail Restoration Initiative. So if anyone's interested in supporting that, definitely check out the donation link there. Everything helps. And again, I think as trail runners, like, doing like stewardship is a big part of our sport and keeping the trails safe and maintained so that we can all continue to enjoy and use them. And with that, I'll send it maybe to Caitlin to kind of continue the conversation of the Highline Trail Restoration Initiative from kind of where Shannon had left off.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for the plug for the donation link. That is just how we get this work done, is by community involvement, donations from foundations, local businesses, individuals, and their support. All of that makes this work possible. So we really appreciate that added piece. But in the next few years, I totally agree. This is such a hidden gem in Arizona. And although we want to maybe personally keep it private, we want users to be out on the trail and for people to use it and for people to get outside. And we're seeing that a lot, especially in this like in between COVID, post-COVID world where people are reconnecting with the natural world, but we want to do it in a sustainable way. And one way is by supporting projects like this. We work hand in hand with the Forest Service on this project in adding capacity with the physical work, but also adding capacity with funding and being able to funnel more community investments into this community resource. So in the next few years, we have a few opportunities for people to really engage and be active stewards and users of the trail. In October, we have our own mountain bike event. And it is a fundraising event called the Highline Hold'em. This year it is on October 14th, and it's just a way to bring community members onto the trail, raise additional funds, and kind of celebrate the work that we've already done and look ahead to the work that needs to be completed, and a way to continue to spread the word about what needs to be done in the next years. Because like everyone said, it's a lot, and it requires a lot of funding, but that's why we have so many great partnerships and so many community members that really care and put time and money into the effort.
Yeah, I love it. And like if anyone in our community is interested, can you, are there ways for them to volunteer for the event, or how can they register if they want to participate? Or like what different ways can like the greater outdoor community in Arizona be involved, whether it be as a participant or via like volunteering or anything like that?
Absolutely. I'll let Angie take some of this too, but we will have an event registration page for that event that I mentioned in October. Then we also have volunteer days. Those happen with a variety of partners, including Wild Arizona, through the Forest Service as well, and through the NFF. So we have kind of multiple avenues to look for this information on all of our websites, on our social media pages. So yes, it's not only directly donating to that link, but it's just getting that in-kind volunteer time on the trail too.
Yeah, and are there any like upcoming trail work days that you all have planned, or can you plug social handles to where maybe our viewing audience can check all that out.
Definitely. I'm going to pass that one to Shannon.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different avenues that we try to publicize events. Other than the Highline Hold'em, we've been trying to nail down a date for another volunteer trail work day, but it's in progress, so I can't announce it yet. But there's a couple of partners where you can keep an eye on their social media, and we mostly work with the Arizona Trail Association, Wild Arizona, and the Rim Country Mountain Bike Association. And you can just Google any one of those and you'll get Facebook pages and Instagram accounts associated with them.
Awesome.
Cool.
Any additional
love it.
plugging we can get is great. So if you see one of those posts go through your feed, please expand them.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that one thing that I would have for our viewing audience, whether they want to drop this in the comments right now or in the comments on the post-recorded, like published video, is like, what would like our community like to see us do more of, right? Like whether it's offering more trail work days or things like that. Like I'd love to hear just from our viewing audience in terms of like how do they think Aravaipa can increase like stewardship efforts, because I think that like we all want to do more, and sometimes the hardest thing is just like starting. And so we're grateful to like be here with, you know, the Forest Service and National Forest Foundation, like having this conversation. But like I think in all of our minds it's hopefully the start of like a longer term process of just having more stewardship and more impact on kind of the areas that we use. So before we get to any sort of like live questions, if we have any, does anyone else have any just more general thoughts? I know I just cut you off as you were about to talk, so I'll send it to you first.
I think what happens sometimes with trail runners, and I can't speak for everybody because certainly there's people doing trail work out there, but as a trail runner or even a hiker, it's easy to just, no matter the terrain, you just climb over it, right?
Yep.
Where like a mountain biker, they're more like they need more smoother trails to be able to ride a lot of times. So I feel like getting out there and doing the trail work is like a long-term solution, right? Like that's why the Black Canyon Coalition is so successful too. They have constantly people out there fixing trails, and there's a reason why. But the Highline Trail is a national recreation trail, so it's a pretty big deal already. It's like it's been recognized for a reason. And I always used to say this when we would run Zane Grey, because it would start at the Pine Trailhead and finish at Trailhead 260 or 260 Trailhead 50 miles later. It was like, this would be an unbelievable backpacking weekend, like just taking your time because there's water on course and you can like camp along the way, and it'd be way more fun than actually running it straight through. So like we're talking about people like making it more accessible. Like I think about backpackers right away, where it's like, because every time I was like, this would be so cool to just do like 15, 20 miles, camp for the night by a spring, you know, and then continue on the next day. So I think creating that for people where they're not turned away because it's just so rugged and so remote and manzanita overgrown. And I mean, so I think this is it's a crucial thing for like the longevity of the Mogollon Rim being kind of what it should be.
Well, and hopefully the evolution, right? Like the evolution of like, I don't want to say making like it's forced, but like this should be like, if everyone has a bucket list of like outdoor experiences or outdoor places to go, like this should be on that. Like everyone should be wanting to go visit Margaret at Rim Runners in Payson and then go, you know, out on some of the trails, because it's like, it's obviously it's easy for us to say like, oh, it's so beautiful, but like it's so beautiful,
it's a special place.
You know, like
it
it's
really
just
is.
It's one of those places that like you're there and you see it and it makes you feel something, right? And like I think that that's one of the things that's like different.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm sure we've all been to like a lot of great places for outdoor recreation. And it's like one of the few places, at least for me, where it's like, oh, this is like giving me goosebumps, like being here and seeing this. And like, I think that that's why people should go and say hi to Margaret at Rim Runners and support the economy in Payson and Pine and those local communities, and utilize the trail systems and just create memorable experiences for themselves, their families, whatever it may be. So Bryce, do we have any questions from the viewing audience here?
We do have one. I'll throw it up on the screen now.
Yep. Is there going to be any work on the promontory trail through this restoration or with Aravaipa? Shout out to Deb, the legend in the chat. So
Promontory's in great shape.
yeah, so maybe I'll throw that to
It's a
the
great
people
trail.
who know a lot more than me.
We've done a lot of work on that. It looks great right now.
It does look great right now,
You
Noah.
should have seen it 3 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'll just say from the Forest Service standpoint, connector trails will be a later phase. We might be up to phase 5 by then. I don't know, but that's certainly an option in the future.
Yeah, but
And NFF is along for the ride.
Yes. Bring back East Weber. We want that one back.
anything else in the live chat, Bryce? Aravaipa Trail cleanup days.
Said on internet
Maybe do
service.
one every
It keeps
quarter.
dropping. I notice that the bars keep dropping out, Angie, for some reason.
And so, Aravaipa Trail work days. I think that's something that we should do more of.
Absolutely.
It used to be, I think, trickier because of how many races we had, but I believe like where our staffing is now, that we may be able to coordinate some more of those, even if it means we potentially have an event going on or something like that. So it's definitely something that I would say that we want to do more of, and that, you know, if our community wants us to do more of it, then we probably should do more
well,
of it,
even
right?
if it's piggybacking on already set up days, sometimes that's easier because then you just get more hands out there if it's enough work.
For sure. I think that like the last thing we want to do is like counter program with partners in outdoor recreation, whether it be national forest or regional parks or whatever the case may be, right? So I think that like trying to identify those dates where we can partner with them, I think makes the most sense for kind of everyone involved. To where it's like we can help amplify basically a project that they have going on through promotion or resources or hopefully driving community involvement, things like that. So I wouldn't say like, oh, we have any surefire plans right this second, but I think that it's something that we want to continue to try and do a better job of. And I think that even from when I started here in 2021 to now, I think we've improved. But we can always probably keep doing better and keep doing more, you know?
Yeah. I had a question maybe the other viewers are interested in too, but the actual restoration of the trail, we know with switchbacks, of course, it's gotten longer and everything, but are there plans to increase like parking lots or trailheads, or is this specific to the trail?
There are plans in the works through a separate agreement than the actual Highline Restoration Initiative agreement, where we're going to try to enhance trailheads not only for the Highline but around Rim Country in general.
Cool. I know that's always a tough thing for, especially from a race organization perspective, where it's like trailheads are generally made for 4 to 8 cars, and then we're trying to roll in there with a brigade of people, and it's like, you can't do that. So
you're just trying to showcase the beauty to the world, right?
That's right. Yeah. Cool.
Is there anything else in the live chat for us, Bryce? Doesn't look like it. And that was actually, just to piggyback off what you just said, like the trail being longer, that was another comment that Deb had in the live chat. She had been out on the trail with Margaret near the Hell's Gate section and said that maybe it had increased in mileage a little bit. So I don't know if Margaret has any insights on that or any thoughts before we kind of start to wrap things up.
Yeah, as each of the sections have been completed, it does increase the mileage a little bit, and that's mostly due to switchbacks that have been added to the trail. So typically from from Geronimo to Washington Park, that's generally been about a 10-mile section, and now it's a little over 11 miles, that section, and that's primarily, once again, due to switchbacks that have been added as part of the restoration project. So it is getting longer. each time we do it. When we did the Pine to fish hatchery a few weeks ago, Deb and I and Shannon McQuaid, we actually logged 42 miles in that section, which has typically been around 39 to 40 miles in the past. So we're interested to see this next phase, especially in that Hell's Gate section, what that's going to do as far as the total length of the trail from Pine to 260 Trailhead, which is the original Zangray course. So I would imagine it's going to add a few more miles there as well once everything's done. And Angie and I were talking about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you heard it here first, Mogollon runners.
Yeah.
Bonus mile on the Highline.
Breaking news right here. I wish we had some audio effects to chime in here.
But it might be easier. Is the section easier? Is it less technical?
The section.
Because that was tough.
It'll be more fun. It'll be more fun.
No,
Let's just say that. Right?
That section from Washington Park to Geronimo now for the Mogollon Monster is so runnable now. It's just amazing.
Wow. Is that good or bad? I don't know.
Mountain bikers and hikers and runners like flow, right?
Yep.
So good flow, good fun.
No, I was actually just thinking that yesterday as I was checking out the damage from the Brady fire. It's like this section is just it's like a cruise now. It's just really nice. Very, very nice. I think the runners are going to really enjoy it.
It'll be a nice way to break up all the rim climbs.
Yeah. We're going to be...
A nice way to break up promontory.
Yeah. Jamil and I are going to be out there and be like, back in our day, we used to go straight up this mountain. You guys don't know how easy this is.
And I just wanted to add context for Deb's comment about Promontory Butte. That trail basically drops straight off Rim Road, Forest Road 56, and it literally is just a vertical descent off the rim, and it's very loose gravel and just very technical. It's so much fun though,
but not what we would design if we were designing a trail in today's world, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's short. It's probably not even a tenth of a mile, that drop, you know?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
it's
but
not
it is beautiful, but it's you're
it's
out
rugged.
there. Yeah,
it's
rugged.
a monster.
It's the Mogollon Rim. That's what it is, you know.
Well, does anyone else have maybe any just general parting thoughts before we wrap this up? Kind of leave it open to any of our guests or Noah. Yeah.
Well, I would like to chime in. I just want to say, I reached out to you, Noah, several years ago, and I'm really super excited to have made this new connection with Aravaipa Running Company. These partnerships are what make the job so much fun. Getting to share this experience and this process with all of you guys. So I'm super grateful to have you guys join in as partners now.
Thank you. Yeah, we're always grateful to be able to run up there and bring people up there from all over the country and world. So
yeah, and I think just one thing on that is like it's easy for us to like receive the pat on the back, right? Like the Forest Service is grateful for this partnership, but it's not like it's a partnership with our community, right? Which is what like makes it impactful. Like we're just two schmucks sitting in an air-conditioned studio in Phoenix talking about trail restoration and trail running. Like It's our community that like makes everything happen, from our events to our community initiatives and things like that. And so it's like, yeah, we'll take the flowers and we're grateful for the kind words, but it's really, it's the community that like deserves all the praise, because if we didn't have like such a loyal community, like nothing we do would have the same kind of impact. So shout out to all of what do we want to Aravaipa Nation is what we'll call them for today at least. So
well, yeah, I mean, and on that, the real heroes are the trail work teams. Because if you've ever done trail work, it is it's tough work. It's not easy work. It's gratifying for sure. And you can go back and see the work, but it's not easy. So it's
for sure.
And then all the planning that you ladies have done, and takes a lot. That's why it takes years to complete, right? Like the idea starts probably even years before the actual activation. So I think it's a long process, and it's cool to see it like a lot of progress already. So it's fun.
Shannon, Caitlin, any final thoughts?
Just thank you guys so much for joining us in the initiative. Every person counts, and we love having as many partners as possible. So a lot of gratitude to you guys and your community as well.
Yeah, want to echo that. We're really appreciative of, all of our community supporting this. It is collaborative stewardship in action. There's lots to come. There's lots of ways to get involved. And even just to get out on the trail. I think we really just want to promote and showcase this special area in Arizona, and protect it. And
I like that.
Yeah, I love it. Well, that was way wiser thoughts than I could ever impart on our viewing audience. So with that, I think we are going to wrap the show. If anyone does have, again, any thoughts for how Aravaipa can, be more at the forefront of trail stewardship kind of in the Southwest, make sure you leave that in the comment below. Again, you can donate directly to the Highline Trail Restoration Initiative by visiting the link that is in the description of this video. And we appreciate, both the Forest Service and Margaret at Rim Runners and the National Forest Foundation for joining us for this conversation. It was a lot of fun, a lot of education for me, but also just a very important conversation to have. So we appreciate everyone, and thank you all for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for